All right, good evening, guys, and welcome to our Thursday evening training. We are live here in our Upper Marlboro location. Welcome to everybody in the office and welcome to everybody online as well. This evening, we're going to be continuing with our My House Porter training. We are going to touch base on a couple other things because I want to make sure that we address whatever your needs are. I'm very excited to see your guys' productivity, and I know you have a lot of questions. So we're going to go through adding My House Porter so you guys know how to connect it to BrightLMS. You know what the status needs to be, you know what your steps need to be, the documents you need to use, because I'm very excited that I've gotten that question from multiple of you, just within the last few days or so. So I want to make sure that we cover that. And then towards the middle of training, I'm going to let you guys tell me what things you need. And the things that I hear most from all of you, will go ahead and dive into those as well. I just want to make sure that you're getting your immediate questions answered. Does anybody have any questions about anything or anything that you'd like to share before we begin? Well, I have something that I want to reiterate for anybody who was unable to make Realty Talks today. We were going over all of the new information that we learned from training because our Boomtown training has begun. Have you looked at your email from Boomtown and registered for your trainings?
Yeah.
Okay, so we are on a timeline for that. So we have a mandate. We have to have all of our agents trained within a time window. So go onto Boomtown and register for your trainings. There's a 3-part training. They're very easy and they've made them very user-friendly. They're interactive. For those that are available during the daytime, they have 9, 10, 30, 12, and another time during the daytime. For those that are not available during the daytime, then they have the on-demand that you can do at any time. They also let you know how long each one of the trainings are so that you can time block and you can schedule, and if you need to do them in segments, but they're only 1 hour. They're 1 hour piece, but there is some dynamic information, and we are very excited about all of the options and everything afforded to each one of our agents through the Boomtown platform. So just want to reiterate that as many times as possible. Schedule and complete that training. The good thing, you got it. So the good thing is once you complete the training, they will send you a video. So you can look at the video on replay as many times as you need to. Because I know a couple of people have said, hey, I was kind of multitasking. I was able to listen in, so I completed it, but I'm going to have to go back and rewatch the video to get all the details. But whatever is necessary to make sure that we get these 3 trainings done, they say within the next 30 days or 30 days from about a week and a half or so ago. Let's go ahead and get them done. The sooner the better. Our live date, everybody is going to be live as of April the 1st. April 1st, all of your platforms are going to be live. You are already starting to receive communication from them. Some of you've already gotten information about your dashboard and your profile and all that good stuff. So when you receive an email from them, it's going to ask you to go in and update your profile. So in your profile, upload your pictures, select your number from your Boomtown so that when you're sending those text messages, emails, and all your correspondence through the system, you have it linked directly with your cell phone. That way you can do it through the, Boomtown Now app, and it logs all of your communication when you use that Boomtown number so that when you follow up with that lead where your last, touch was with regards to that lead. So very exciting information. They have us nearly ready within this next week or so. All of your websites will be finished. All of your dashboards will be finished. All of your campaigns will be finished. Your contacts and everything will be imported. So there is a lot going on behind the scenes to make sure that this platform is completely built out for every last one of our Realty pros by April the 1st. So anything that you get from them, hold it with high regard and priority, just like you would if it's directly from the brokerage. Open it and follow those steps because they're going to be our personal concierge to walk us through that process. The good thing is that we're all doing this together. So I'm not an expert as of yet in Boomtown, so I'm going to need all of us to rely on each other as well as their success team. So they have extensive training. They have trainings offered every single day, but there are going to be some insights and things that you guys are going to get from the training that'll be very useful to the group. So whenever you're finished with your trainings, let's just talk about it because there are going to be some things that, may be an aha moment to you that, you can share and help somebody with. So just dissect, digest all of that information and bring it to the table so that we can learn and grow together. Okay. Has anybody that's on the line that wasn't able to join us earlier, have you guys had a chance? I see we have a couple other people that have joined since we began. Hello, Kristen. Hello, Margaret. Welcome to you guys. Have either of you had a chance to either register or complete any of your trainings just yet for Boomtown?
Hi,
This is
Kristen.
Margaret.
Oh,
Hello, that's both of you at the same time. Go ahead, Kristen, then Margaret.
okay. Yeah, I registered for all three.
Great.
So looking forward to it.
Excellent. How about you,
Same.
Margaret?
Yes, I registered for all three. I think my first one is on Tuesday.
Perfect, perfect, perfect. And they have them in rotation. So if by chance you are unable to catch the first one, which is always on Tuesday, the following Tuesday, they're going to be doing it again. And then remember that on demand, you can access that anytime. So kudos, that is great to know. We are very excited. Are you guys happy to be getting websites and your Boomtown Now apps and the personal concierge behind the scenes and all that good stuff? What do you think, Marcus? I know that's right. Good, good, good. What do you think, Marcus? I hadn't heard from you.
Oh no, I'm ready. I'm ready for it.
Ready for it?
Definitely am.
All right. We said this is our year of progression. So next level, new levels for everybody. We want to make sure you guys have every single thing that you need to thrive. And that was one of the, one of the themes of the end part of our Realty Talks today. No excuses. Everything you need is in the bag. And when I mean in the bag, I mean inside of Porterhouse, you have every single tool that you need to thrive in real estate. Everything that we can provide to you guys, we will. If there's anything that you need to add to it, we ask you guys to be bold, be daring, invest in your real estate business. You got into real estate so that you can have financial freedom. And the sky is the limit. So I know that we invest in the things that we want to invest in. Make your real estate business one of those. We said with Boomtown, we have invested in each and every last one of them. We ask you, I think Mr. Porter made a reference to a car. We're buying you guys a Porsche, put some fuel in it. Okay, put the gas in. You know what I mean? Do your pay per leads so that you can just look at your real estate business at a glance and say, okay, well, this month, this is what my budget is. This is the amount of leads that I'm going to, purchase for this month, and so forth and so on. So I'm really excited about everything that platform affords us. Does anybody have any questions or anything that they'd like to share before we begin with our training for the evening?
Yes, this is Margaret.
Hello, Margaret.
Hi, I have an open house on Saturday. So if
Awesome.
you are available, anyone is available to help out, I would greatly appreciate it. If you're not available to help out and you're working, bring your buyers by.
Excellent. Put that in the WhatsApp group chat. So put the date, time, location, and all that good stuff and the specs to the property. Shoot it out in the WhatsApp group chat. Great information.
Right.
Thank you for
Thank you.
sharing. Kudos. Anybody else? Excellent. Welcome, Angela. I see that you've joined us. Is that Skipper or Smith?
Hi, it's Angela Skipper. I'll update it.
Hello, Angela. How are you?
Doing well, guys.
Excellent. Awesome. All right. So this evening, we're going to go through how you add your listings. Well, you know what? Let's take it from the beginning and then we'll go through to the end. Because a lot of you have asked me about My House Porter and about the terms and about the language that needs to be in those listing documents, the additional documents that need to be added so as to make sure that it's in line with all of the brokerage's requirements, and then what you do on Bright and then the My House Porter platform. So I want to walk through that kind of from beginning to end with you guys so that you understand exactly what it is that you need to do. All right. So we are going to, now I'm not going to create one. I'm just going to show you where you're going to go in order to create it. All right, guys. But in terms of your BrightLMS platform, I want to go to your library first, because in your library, you're going to see your My House Porter folder. Here we are. And when you click on that My House Porter folder in your BrokerMint library, you're going to see three things. You're going to see instructions, and those instructions are for you as the Realty Pro. You're going to see listing qualifications. Those are the merits that your listing agreement needs to have in order for it to qualify for the platform. And then you're going to see terms and conditions for buyers and sellers. That is actually for the buyer and the seller to sign while in the contract, right? So there are two things that the seller's going to sign off on. The seller's going to sign off on the qualifications, and the seller is going to also sign off on the terms of the platform. Okay. So when that opens up, you'll see what that looks like. So those two documents, these two documents are what you're going to add to your standard listing agreement to effectuate the terms and conditions of My House Porter. Okay. Any questions about that? All right, so now let's look at your instructions. Your instructions, you'll see in this exact same space. The most important thing is that you have the terms and conditions and you have the brokerage compensation listed correctly on your My House Porter listing. As it pertains to all of the other language in your listing agreement, it's going to be done exactly the way that you would a standard listing, except for your My House Porter listings, it's going to read the following. Does anybody want to read paragraph number 2 for us?
The brokerage compensation must be 6% plus $7.95. The property sales on myhouseporter.com. Then instead of the 6% commission, the seller will pay a 3.5% finder's fee plus the $7.95. And the buyer will pay the buyer agent's commission.
Perfect. Thank you, Joy. So that is essential, and we want to make sure that we have that language in there. Although the seller will only pay us a 3.5% finder's fee, be sure that your listing brokerage compensation doesn't say 3.5% only. Because if you do it that way, and then you allocate 2.5% to the buyer's agent, what you've essentially done is taken a 1% listing, right? And that's not the goal. The purpose of this is to make sure that you get paid all of your money. So let's make sure that we're paying attention to the the language in there, and we have all of that specified. Does anybody have any questions about that? Yes. Mhm.
About the selecting what type of transaction.
So Aurelia asked a great question, and we had not addressed that as of yet. She said, what type of transaction should you select in BrokerMint? And because we're doing My House Porter, you can select auction transaction, okay? So what we'll do is I'm gonna go to transactions, and I will create. And if I create a transaction, this is what Aurelia is asking about. So you see where it says traditional sale, short sale, so forth and so on. That's where your auction piece comes into play. All right. So you can go ahead and do that for your myhouseporter.com listings. That way, when we look into BrokerMint, we'll know right offhand that it's a myhouseporter.com listing versus a standard sale. All right. So that's how you're going to create the transaction. Now, you guys already know that when you create the transaction and you assign that checklist, all of your documents are going to go into, let me actually go to one of them. Hold on, let's see. But this is something that we already know. When you create your transactions and you go into the transaction itself and add your checklist, let's see, one from recently that I may be able to grab for you guys. We're not going to walk through the whole process. I just want to show you some points of reference. Let's see. Margaret, what's your transaction that you're working on currently? It's a myhouseporter.com listing.
It's 7904
7904.
Rosaryville.
Got it. All right, so 7904 Rosaryville.
Oh, I need to fix that.
Okay, so you go ahead in there and fix it, and that's a good notation when you're typing in the information for the transaction. Front load as much detail in there as possible when you first create the transaction so that it'll auto-populate into your documents. Now that we have announced that the sales type will be auction. You can go in there and update that. But here's where we were coming to, your listing checklist, right? So in your checklist, it's going to have the documents that you need. So your listing agreement, when you click on that line item there, it's going to open up those documents on the right-hand side of the page so that you'll see those that you need. And you're simply going to add your disclosures from your library. Okay. Does anybody have any questions about that? It says upload. Yep. So property disclosures are uploaded in there, but the myhouseporter.com, those two, you're going to need to upload those. Yep.
In the disclosure tab.
Yep.
Okay. So, and
Okay. So your listing documents are going to be there. Aurelia is asking a question where it says upload your signed disclosures. Now, I want to say that Margaret has already uploaded a number of those, but the ones that are already pre-populated into your actual listing checklist, they are your standard boilerplate disclosures. Your myhouseporter.com disclosures, you're going to need to upload those too, okay? Or you know what, I will likely just create another checklist altogether. I'll probably just do one that says Maryland, myhouseporter.com listing, and then just put it in there for you guys. But essentially, I want you to be ready to add any addenda that you need, because what you're going to see in your checklist are the boilerplate ones. But depending on where the property is and what, you know, what things apply to your property, there are going to be some of these documents that you'll pull out. So the ones that have Maryland Realtor at the top for all of your Maryland listings, you're going to keep those in there. But you're going to see some that are going to say Prince George's County or PG Carr. If the property is in Charles County, you're going to remove those and you're going to go to mdrealtor.org and you're going to upload the appropriate piece from mdrealtor.org if it's for Charles County, if it's for Montgomery County, if it's for St. Mary's, Anne Arundel, or Howard County. You're going to go there and actually upload the applicable documents from there. And you're not going to use the ones that say PG Carr if the property is not in Prince George's County. So these are the standard disclosures that you see in there. And most of them that you need all the time for Prince George's County are going to be in there, but you're going to pull in others, some of which are located right in your library. So if I go to, actually, if I wanted to add, I'll show you guys a trick. And Maggie, I don't want to mess up your transaction. I just want to show you guys a real quick trick. In the event that you need to add anything, you can add a task. And if you want to put your My House Porter addenda, in order for you to be able to add a document, all you got to do is click the box that says requires a document to be added, and then you assign it to yourself. That way you have a new field and you can simply go here. You see where it has upload. I'm going to click on that. Okay. But I don't want to upload it from my computer. I want to use forms because it's already in my BrokerMint library. So then I'm going to go to select first forms because I want to be able to scrub my library and find what I need. I'm going to go to myhouseporter.com. I'm going to select both of those. Then I'm going to import them, right? So if I needed to attach anything, let's say by chance I went to mdrealtor.org and I needed to grab some documents. I'll go there just for the sake of the demonstration. So if I went to mdrealtor.org, I would be able to go to legal and click on forms, and it's going to give me the option for my statewide or local board forms. Your statewide forms are already in BrokerMint for you. The local board forms, this is your access to each one of the counties. It's going to have you to sign in. Okay. And once you sign in, it's going to show you all of your counties in Maryland. So every single county in Maryland is located right there. You pay for it with your dues, so you have access to all of it. Okay. They just don't provide it for us in the BrokerMint platform. The board doesn't. BrokerMint gives us the state and the boards have their individual locations. So if by chance it's for Southern Maryland, you just open up that folder for Southern Maryland, and then you're gonna see all of the documents and addenda and everything you need for Southern Maryland right in there, okay? Now, back. I'm gonna go back, and let's say by chance it's for Baltimore, right? You see your Greater Baltimore Board forms right here. Okay, so you're gonna scroll on down, and a cheat that you wanna do right offhand, whenever you're listing in a new market that you're not familiar with, you always wanna go to BrightLMS and look at 3 to 5 other listings in that market that are either on the market or have sold, and look at the disclosures that those agents use up there, so that you know which ones you need to pull for your property, and then you just come on here and pull it. But if you did it organically without using that strategy, you're gonna come to your library and look at the list of addenda that are offered and see which ones are applicable, right? I know that, Talita, you're about to be working with a property that has tenants in it, and it's in Baltimore as well. When I said that we would have to go through it in more detail after you get the listing, this is what I was referring to. Baltimore and DC both have tenant rights. So if the property that you're listing has tenants, you want to make sure that you include these documents, because your seller is going to have to be made aware of it. The tenants are going to have to be made aware of it. And there's going to be an additional couple steps when it's in one of the jurisdictions that has tenant rights. For everybody else, that is not going to apply. But you notice the Baltimore County notices and disclosures. So what you're going to do is, for your template and brokerment, you would show you how to, if you needed to remove one of them, you would simply the X next to it, right? So you can go to all of your documents that are there. I'm gonna minimize that so you won't be in my way. So you can go to all of your documents right from your edit/e-sign. Whenever you see, I'm gonna close out of this. And whenever you see either use forms or edit/e-sign, that's how you locate your documents. Let's see, as an example, if I were to go to this listing prep, actually, I'm gonna do this one right here. If I went here and I wanted to remove any of the documents, no worries, Margaret, I'm not gonna remove any of your documents, but if I needed to, I could simply go to edit/e-sign. I'm going to keep all of my signatures. Remember, allow that first box to be selected. Do not void any of your signatures. Just keep that first box. And although I'm not going to do anything, I simply wanted to open this field so it brings me here. You see where it says signers and other parties? This is on step 2 of 3. In order for me to add or affect any of my forms in my library, I got to go back to step 1 of 3. Step 1 of 3, this is where I can add documents. I can remove any of the documents that are there. I can make attachments to it. Make sense? Questions? All right. So that's how I'm going to add my documents. So if I go back to the My House Porter addenda, I'm going to come on back over here because I was already in the midst of adding them and I have deleted one. I'm going to come right back. Let me show you guys, make sure you're looking exactly where I've gone. I have clicked on the line item so that on the right-hand side of the page, it's going to allow me to go into that line item, right? So now I'm going to click on use forms. I see what I have in there, which is my listing qualifications. I know that I need to add the other one from my myhouseporter.com folder because there are 2. Yep, so two for the seller to sign off on, 1 for the buyer to sign off on. So both of those that the seller needs to sign, those need to be selected. You put them right in there. So next, you have the seller's information right there. You're going to X out of it. So let me do that again. If you have signers that are delegated to this file, but they are not applicable, you simply hit the X on the right. So that's going to remove any unnecessary signature fields from being added into your document. If you allow for this to move past and it has seller 1, seller 2, buyer 1, buyer 2, agent, title company, and all those things, it's going to be looking for you to assign fields to those people to sign in your document. But because you're only working with the seller, you want to make sure you only have the seller, and you may add yourself as the agent. So you have the seller and you have the agent. And in terms of the order, you always want to make sure that your seller signs first, but you could arrange that order if you needed to. So if you have two sellers and you want to make sure that one of them signs before the other, you can always arrange that, right? But your sellers sign before you as the agent. And when you're on the buying side, your buyers sign first. So that's how you're going to assign that order, okay? Then you go to, sure, Aurelia, you have a question?
Yeah. Or you have to show twice
Mhm.
because added as an agent sign,
Uh-huh.
but it also makes you the owner.
You are the owner of the transaction, but the owner,
Both up there.
so it's fine because the owner of the transaction doesn't have signature fields. The listing
Okay,
agent
okay.
does.
That,
Mhm.
I literally just did my mom, that happened.
There you go. Not a problem. Great question. So Joy had a question, when adding people, because she's the transaction owner, should she remove herself because she's also the listing agent? You're the transaction owner and you're supposed to be. The listing agent is going to have fields to sign eventually, so you leave yourself there. Okay? All right, so if we wanted to go into those documents, we hit next. And when we hit next to go into those documents, this is where we're going to be able to add our signature fields, because these two documents do need to be signed and dated by the seller. Okay, so we're just going to put this information over here. The seller sign off on it. I'm going to scroll down to the bottom. That one's already there, which is great. Put my date. Then I'm going to fill in the property specific information. So putting the property address. Okay, I put that property address there. Just imagine that I did. All right. And that final bid date there, imagine that I put it in. All right. Now, in order to send it to my seller, I'm just going to click send for e-sign. But because I'm not actually sending these documents to the seller, I will not do that now. But this is what I would do in order to send that over to my seller for signatures. All right. Does anybody have any questions?
Can you scroll up a little bit?
Sure. Yep. So this is where you would put your property address. Yep, 123 Main Street. And you put the complete property address, okay? So that would be your initial listing documents, right? These are the terms and conditions. I'm gonna discard the changes because I actually don't need that at all, right? But your terms and conditions. So now let's go back to those so you know how to do it in BrightLMS, and we'll continue from there. Does anybody have any questions so far? All right, then I'm gonna go on back to the library. So I'm gonna go to your instructions. All right, I'm gonna call on two people here. Do I have two volunteers to read 3? Somebody can do 3 and 4, and somebody can do. So I'll call on somebody here first and we'll alternate, but we're gonna walk through each one of the instructions for you guys. Who's our first volunteer? Come on up. Come on.
Reading 3 and 4.
Yes, read 3 and 4, and then we're gonna choose a volunteer to do the next one.
Hello, everyone. Sellers must agree to a starting bid of 10 to 15% below the market value. The market value is established by the comparative market analysis. Overpriced listings do not qualify for this platform. A, listings are to be placed in both BrightLMS as well as myhouseporter.com at the starting bid price. 4, listings is to be placed in BrightLMS as an auction sale type in the coming soon status. A, the date that the property becomes active shall be the date of the 1-day open house. B, the auction shall begin the day of the open house and shall be concluded within 72 hours of the open house. C, the auction preview date shall be the day of the open house. I don't know if she wants us to continue. Well, I'm just gonna continue to number 5. Once the listing is created in BrightLMS, then Realty Pros shall proceed to create the listing on myporterhouse.com.
And are we supposed to just jump in?
I'm not sure because Jasmine just left. I think she
Oh,
stepped away for a second.
okay. Well, I heard her say choose volunteers, so I'll read number 6 and 7 and 8.
Okay.
Those were, okay. The property's unique listing ID from myhouseporter.com shall be added to the MLS in the auction terms and auction registration sections. The auction location shall be myhouseporter.com. Should we receive pre-auction offers, the seller reserves the right to entertain and accept any offer. Any such pre-auction offers submitted before the active date will be sight unseen. Pre-auction offers will be subject to the myhouseporter.com terms and conditions as agreed between the parties.
Great, thank you. Now let's talk about that a little bit, because every property type will be a good fit for My House Porter, but not every listing type or not every listing agreement will. Does that make sense? You want to make sure that the sellers have agreed to these terms and conditions so that we can give them the best, or we can give them the best value, right? Now, to be specific, you're going to have some sellers that you're going to do market analysis and you're going to say, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, based on the market analysis, the condition of your property, this property is going to be worth about $750,000 to $65,000. And you're going to have some sellers to say, you know what, Marcus, I think my property should be worth $870,000. I hear you, but I put a whole lot of work into my property and I really want to get my money back for this. That property will qualify for My House Porter, but the listing will not unless the seller agrees to these terms and conditions. Because you guys remember what we went over with regards to pricing strategy and all those different things and what's going to trigger that aggressive competition. Let me see. Yep. That aggressive competition that we were talking about. We want to make sure that sellers are aware and they agree in advance so as to give us the best possible outcomes. Because if you have a seller that wants to just price their listing over and above the market, that's the standard sale. You always want to have the conversation with them. Okay, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, this is what my market analysis is showing. And if I agree to take the listing, and you want to come from that perspective because you have to agree to take the listing. If I agree to take the listing, then it needs to be, with the understanding that within a week or 2 weeks, if we don't get any offers at your price, then we reduce it to my price, right? That's for a standard sale. But a property will not start out like that on myhouseporter.com because we are, we're priding ourselves on the ability to quickly turn around and to get them the highest and best value and all these different things. So we want to make sure that it meets those terms and conditions so that we get the best, they get the best bang for their buck. We get to deliver on what we promised, but they definitely need to follow our lead in that regard. Does that make sense to you guys? All right. So as it pertains to the active versus your active so that you can get to your open house. Again, what we're seeing is 99% of the time, the property is not making it to auction. We are getting aggressive overpriced offers before it ever makes it to auction. So that's a good thing for the sellers, right? Either way, it's a good thing for the brokerage because if it sells, it's great either way. Our hope is that eventually, more of the properties will start making it to the auction because when it makes it to the auction and it makes it to your open house, now you have your grand event. Your open house is what you're doing all your marketing for. It's where all of your other seller leads are going to come from, your potential buyer prospects and all the festivities that are going to be surrounding that one-day open house. That helps you with building your business, right? So when it makes it to the open house and it goes through the auction and the bidding process, that's going to be great to help build your business. So, you know, either way, it works well because you still get paid on the transaction and it works well for the seller either way. But hopefully we get to start having, you know, more of those events, because this has been such an aggressive time. When I tell you guys, I had to make an update that I want to show you guys really quickly. One of our most recent, let me see, one of our most recent listings that sold on myhouseporter.com. There it is. The starting bid was $450, but it closed at $530. Yep, closed at $530. So when we're talking about the terms and conditions and everything, you want to make sure that you go over those in detail with the seller so that the property is going to be a good fit, and then we're able to nearly guarantee them a success. You can't guarantee, but you offer them the best possible chance of a success, okay? So the property becomes active the day of the open house, right? Not before the open house. So when you put it on, you're putting it on in the coming soon status, all right? Does anybody have any questions about that? All right. So in terms of the unique MLS ID that you're going to get from My House Porter when you create it, do we have anybody on the line? Yep, that has created a listing on myhouseporter.com. I see you on there, Maggie, so I'm going to pull you out. I know you've done it. Let me see who else we have with us that has done a myhouseporter.com listing on your own. I think you're the only one for the evening, Maggie. So tell
Okay.
us what that process was like, creating your listing on myhouseporter.com.
Well, I created it on Bright first. Just, you know, because it's where the regular stuff, and it determines if we don't sell on My House Porter how much I get paid. So I started there at Bright, and then I came over to my House Porter. I mean, it was fairly easy to put it on. You just copy the same description from Bright to My House Porter and upload your photos. I even uploaded a video on mine, and it was simple. Once you did, it didn't take very long at all. And, you know, it was a perk was my client. I haven't checked the hits this week, but I think my client was most of those hits because, or many of those hits, because he was just interested in seeing the process and who's looking and all of those things on there, and the terms are already there, so I didn't have to make any of those. Now, I did not add up my disclosures there, but they are in Bright. But it was a very easy process.
Awesome. Thank you for that. Now, just so that you guys know, the terms and conditions that we're walking through, they're also listed in the platform. So anybody that comes to the site, they'll see those. So it won't be the first time for them, okay? Now, the piece that I want to point out to you guys is you created in BrightLMS, and you're creating the listing just like you would anyone new transaction, and we'll walk through that process on another day. But here's the piece that applies to your auction. You're going to, your sale type, you're going to choose auction. And when you do, it's going to give you these options right here. You see where it says auction, and it's going to give you a field to put in your auction date, you know, the minimum bid, if you want to put your minimum bid price, your auction time, the preview date, your registration deadline, your auction URL, subject to seller confirmation, the auction location, and is myhouseporter.com, the buyer's premium. That's one thing I'm going to talk about. Bright does not take half percentages for whatever reason. So whenever you plug in 3.5% in there, it's going to convert it to 4%. So you want to put a note in your remarks, and you can even put a note under it, because in your commission section, you can put comments or remarks about the commission to put that buyer's premium is only 3.5%. Bright keeps converting it to 4%. Okay. So that's just what you want to notate.
So where you put it at?
So you can put it right in, if we were creating it, you'll see a place. Let me see. I think you guys are trying to push me to create one. Let's see. Listing. I think they're trying to egg me on in here, guys. They're trying to egg me on to create a listing so that we can walk through the process. So you would actually add it under your commissions. So if you were creating a listing, your residential listing. Next, enter address. Who has a listing that you need to create? The first person to give me the address is 4544
Yeah, Ralph, Grouse,
Place, Waldorf, Maryland. Okay, so Grouse Place, Waldorf, Maryland. Okay, so here you're going to choose one of these so that you can pull information from the tax record. You can also pull information from past listings. If you wanted to pull all of this so that you can compare it, you could do that as well. This is the listing assist feature that Bright has. All the information that used to have to type in the past, now it's going to pull it in for you from not just the public records, but from past listings also. So it limits the information that you have to type. So it's going to be a lot more seamless. So you'll be able to scroll down and see what information you want to add. You can go over, you can add, you know, your improvement values, all of that's going to be different now. So, well, that's from 2022. So you add all of that, which is great. County tax, that tax year, if that's 2021, and skip over 2021, keep 2022. Did you see how easy that was? All right, so I'm going to scroll on down my listing type. So the property type is residential. It's not just for comparables. You're doing an actual listing. It's the exclusive rights. Okay, no extended warranties, full service. Scroll down, see what other information you can find about the property. HOA, listing ID number. So this is all of the information about the listing that it's pulling in for you so that when you actually create the listing, you don't have to type this in for yourself. Of course, you're going to put in all this information about the bedrooms and bathrooms and so forth and so on. If you want to pull that information, it seems like there's some conflicts with that. So you're going to go in and actually scrub it to make sure that all the details are correct. But a lot of this information is going to be pre-populated for you already. So your showings, you know, your in-person, the service and all that good stuff. So on mine, I have some settings that are already preset for me. On yours, if you have those things preset, then that's great. If you don't, then you can set them the first time that you use it. Let me go back to see. Where we have our sale type. Did I move too fast? Did I see that just yet?
Yeah, it was residential. It was residential. When you first started.
Okay, property type, there we go. All right, now. Yep, listing service type. Agent, owners and all that good stuff. Now, I don't want to continue because this is not the listing that I'm putting in. That's going to be for Joy. Okay, so I'm going to actually cancel this. I'm not going to go any further, but that's how you would begin to put it in. And as you go through to add the values to the listing, discard my changes. As you go through to continue adding the values to the listing, you're going to add all the information. You're going to see the option where it gives you the type of sale. So whether it's a standard, whether it's a foreclosure, whether it's an auction. I just don't want to create your listing in my name and then you won't be able to edit it and I'll have to do it for you. So I want to leave your share of the work for you to do. Okay. So, but now for those of you in the event that it's your first time creating a listing, you literally just click over from there, verify the details, and then there's going to be some, you know, some additional components that you have to put in, but the lion's share of it is going to be done for you. Okay, so I just wanted to kind of demystify that for our agents who haven't put a listing into Bright yet. So, you know, it's not a scary feat at all. It is a lot easier now than it used to be because now with Listing Assist, it's pulling in information for you that you used to have to scrub on your own in advance. Okay, so for your listing, when you create it on BrightLMS, it's going to give you that listing ID, right? So on My House Porter, you're going to come over to myhouseporter.com to create your listing after Bright. So transaction, Bright, My House Porter. That's the order, right? And then once you create it on My House Porter, is going to give you an opportunity at the end to say advertise listing. And when you go click on advertise listing, it's going to give you this information. Are we on here? Let me open this back up because we kind of went out of it. Let's go to search again here. But it's a unique listing ID that's specific to My House Porter, so that whenever an agent or a buyer, they're looking for it, once you've created it on My House Porter and you've finished it or you've activated the listing, you're going to get that. Yep, you're going to get that unique ID from myhouseporter.com. So it's going to have the, the preface, your http://myhouseporter.com/ID, and then it's going to have equals and whatever your unique ID is for that listing. So you copy that whole thing, and then you're going to plug it into your auction details. Your auction location is going to be myhouseporter.com. The registration URL is the same as the auction terms URL. You want to make sure that that information is reflected there, because when a buyer comes to the site and they want to find your property and know what to do, they're just going to copy that link and paste it into their, let's just do it. Copy it, paste it into your browser. And then it's going to take them directly to your listing. Now, this one is a former listing, so it's not active, but I just want you guys to see what that looks like, okay? So for your buyers, they just copied it and they brought it right. It brought them right on over here to myhouseporter.com so they can see. So I don't think that a person would have a problem. Does anybody foresee any issues with that? If you see the link, you would just know to copy and paste it. Yep, you would know to do it. Now, funny enough, on HomeSnap, the links are hyperactive, and Bright, only the Bright links are hyperactive, right? So if you're on HomeSnap, you can actually touch on the link and go directly to myhouseporter.com. If you're using it from Bright, you just copy it and paste it into the browser. And then they're able to come right over and they see all of the details for the property. They get to see all of the photos for the property because you guys will upload the photos. They're going to see the property description, any disclosures that you've put there, the terms and conditions of the site, and all of that information is there, including the buyer premium and so forth and so on. Okay. Does anybody have any questions about that?
I have a question. This is Darlene.
Hello, how are you?
I'm doing good. Is the instructions to copy and paste the link in the remarks in the listing?
So in your Bright MLS, let's see if she put it in there to copy and paste that.
Like
Okay, so there's several pieces that are in your agent remarks on Bright MLS, right? So the buyer's agent needs to register the client a minimum of 3 hours before the auction deadline. All bids must be preceded by submission of proof of funds to porterhouse.brokerment.com. Offers new. There will be a 3.5% buyer premium added to the final bid amount to determine the final sales price. And she put in there, Bright keeps converting it to 4%. The seller prefers velocity national title. Put that information, marked contract will be required. Please submit full offers too. So the bids are submitted to myhouseporter.com. Once a bid is accepted, the offer is due within 24 hours and the offer will be submitted to your Brokerment account that's specific to that property. But in the event that anybody has any questions, you can absolutely type in the remarks to copy the link from below and paste it into your browser. We haven't had anybody who just didn't know intuitively to do that, but just in case you guys have any questions, absolutely just add it to your agent remarks.
Okay.
Got it.
Where
Any
do
more
you-
questions about that?
Yeah, I have one question.
Sure.
Where do you get the My House Porter link from again? Down a little bit. That you put.
Got it. So that's a great question. So once you create your listing for myhouseporter.com, well, first of all, let me take you from the beginning again. Once you've gotten your listing agreement signed by the seller, you're going to put it into Bright MLS. Once you put it into Bright MLS, then you're going to get your listing ID. Once you have that on Bright MLS and coming soon, and you have that listing ID, that's when you can create your myhouseporter.com listing. because you're gonna connect it, as you see here. You'll see the MLS ID for the property. Right there. So you're gonna connect, you're gonna create the listing and you're gonna put your MLS ID, not your MLS ID, but the property's unique MLS ID in there. Yep, so they'll be able to see it in Bright as well. So when you do this, you walk through, Marcus, it's like 6 different steps in it. We'll go through creating it another time, but for the sake of our training this evening, I just want to give you guys kind of an overview. So you will create the whole listing in myhouseporter.com. And once you go to activate your listing, then you'll see an option that says market listing or advertise listing. When you see that option that says advertise listing, it's going to give you your unique listing ID. That unique listing ID is the one that you're copying and you're pasting into these remarks on BrightLMS. So it's going to give it to you directly from myhouseporter.com. So you just come back, drop it in.
Okay.
And then make sure that the terms from myhouseporter.com are synonymous with what they are on BrightLMS. Okay.
Okay.
Great question there. And in the event that you guys, you have the same question, no worries, it's outlined for you. So you know exactly what to do in your instructions. It has on there that you're to place it into to BrightLMS as auction and coming soon. It has, once the listing is created in BrightLMS, then you should proceed to create it on myhouseporter.com. The property's unique listing ID from myhouseporter.com shall then be added to the MLS and the auction terms, as well as the auction registration sections. The auction location is going to be myhouseporter.com. So it's all, it's spelled out for you right there. So you'll know exactly what to do. And then it goes down further to talk about what to do if we receive pre-auction offers and so forth and so on. Okay. Any questions?
You know, one question in the instructions, when you say about the percentage, and you go that we're unclear as to the buyer, and the fact that it says that the buyer has to give earnest money deposit of 3.5, is that the same 3.5 that you're going to draft?
That is a great question. So thank you for asking that question. Aurelia is asking about the terms and the conditions, right? In the terms and conditions on myhouseporter.com, as well as those, and they're identical to the ones that you're going to see in your BrokerMint library. She's asking about the buyer's 3.5% buyer premium. So this actually is going to be updated. We had 1% of an earnest money deposit, right? You're going to see a couple different figures that'll be highlighted. You're going to see a buyer's premium in 3.5%, and you're going to see an earnest money deposit in 3.5%. So let me go back to BrokerMint so we can look at that there. Yep. Let me see. Let me open it up for you. Yep, your terms and conditions. So you can see exactly what Aurelia is asking about. Yep. So you see 2 different 3.5% figures reflected. You see line item number 11, 3.5% earnest money deposit. And then you see line item number 14, the buyer's premium of 3.5%. Those are 2 totally different pieces. The earnest money deposit serves the same purpose that it always has. It's the buyer's earnest money deposit. We started out with 1%. We've increased it to 3.5%. That piece is going to be flexible. So that is not, yes, between 1 and 3.5%, right? Based on what the buyer and the seller agree to, right? So that earnest money deposit amount, the more the earnest money deposit, the better. And remember, you're on the listing side. So the more the earnest money deposit, the more secure your contract is. So remember that for your seller clients, to make sure that there's a considerable earnest money deposit so that they fulfill the terms of the contract. So between 1 and 3.5%, but no worries about that. They can, it can be based on the contract, but we're not anything below 1%. We want to make sure that it's something that the buyer feels that they absolutely have to continue with the process and not have the seller to, rule out other bids and offers to go with them, and then the buyer backs out. Okay. Yeah. So I'm gonna answer the second part to that. Now, that's as it pertains to the deposit. The buyer's premium is 3.5%. The buyer's premium is what's added to the high bid to determine the final sales price of the house. The buyer's premium is what pays the buyer's agent's commission, okay? All right. And the buyer's premium, because it's added to the high bid on there, as we've talked about before, that doesn't affect the buyer's financing in any way. It's not a separate pool of money that they have to bring to the table. It's just added to the sales price. No differently than if you guys were writing offers for your buyer and you say, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, my buyer needs closing costs. So I'm gonna add the 3% closing costs on top of the offer, and that's what my buyer's full offer is. It's the exact same strategy there. It's just added on. So then the final your contract price is going to be their high bid plus that 3.5%. So we've done it, ad nauseum when our buyer needed closing cost help. Now we're doing it for the buyer's buyer premium as well. And that's to ensure that they're not bringing separate money to the table to satisfy that amount. Sure. What was that, Aurelia? Mhm.
Or whatever you decide for the buyer.
Mhm.
What happens to that money? Now, they put that in, usually that's kind of added to the closing cost or whatever it is in the transaction. So what happens to their 1%, because they've already grafted the 3.5% in their transaction. So how?
Aurelia's asking about the 1% earnest money deposit. I would answer that, but I'm going to open that up to the floor. Where does the 1% earnest money deposit go? So it's going to be this. Yes. Yep. So towards their sale, in escrow, towards their closing costs. Anybody else have any other thoughts? Yep. So all of those are correct. The 1% always belongs to the buyer. It's just the first portion of their down payment. So say by chance they have a down payment of 3.5% or 10%, their down payment, the 1% that they've deposited, that's the first portion of it. So now whatever numbers their lender's working for them, it's going to be minus that 1% because it's already in escrow for them.
No, you can say the same, except if the buyer is actually paying for the buyer, the buyer's agent.
That's exactly it. Yep. So Aurelia's question or clarification is that everything remains the same as in a regular transaction. The only thing that changes with this is that this platform allows for the buyer to pay for their buyer's agent's commission instead of our seller having to pay for that. So that is top line tremendous value that you guys get to add to all of your sellers. Yes, Joy.
Number 14.
Mm-hmm.
So the buyer's premium is 3.5.
Yes.
But we're only, how does the 3.5 connect with the 2.5 of the buyer's commission? What happens to the difference in percentage of what?
So the 1% on the buyer side, when the buyer plays it, goes towards the My House Porter platform. So the 3.5% on the listing side comes to the listing agent.
Right.
The
So
2.5%.
Okay,
Mhm.
so the buyer, the buyer's premium. So I know the listing agent.
Yep.
Here, the buyer agent
Gets 2.5,
right,
and then 1% goes towards the My House Porter platform. Yep. So the seller's not paying for any of that. Seller's not paying the buyer's agent. They're not paying for, the platform. So tremendous benefit to your sellers there.
I have one question.
Yes. Marcus has a question.
With the buyer's premium, how was that put on the MLS? Did we just show that or?
Yes. I'll go to the page that we were on. Marcus asks, how is the buyer's premium reflected on the MLS? So in the auction section on BrightLMS, you're going to put all the information that the buyer needs about the auction, including the buyer's premium. So on BrightLMS, you would type in 3.5%. Bright is going to convert it to 4% because they don't take half percentages. That's just one of the pieces with their platform. Hopefully they'll update it. But until then, you put a note in there that just like what Ms. Pat did here, I'll go back up to, there will be a 3.5% buyer premium added to the final bid to determine the final sales price. Bright keeps converting this to 4%, but it's only 3.5%. So that is disclosed on BrightLMS.
So the title company would take care of all the extra 1% and everything.
Yes, the title company will take care of it.
Okay.
Yep. Great questions, guys. So also another important notation to make, and I had briefly mentioned this earlier, under compensation remarks, when you guys create your listing and you're putting in the compensation for the buyer's agent being 2.5%, you'll have an option to put remarks regarding the compensation. You're going to put in there the 3.5% buyer's premium is required. Out of the premium, the buyer's agent's 2.5% commission is paid. So you are disclosing that out of that 3.5% commission, the buyer's agent is being paid out of that. Okay?
Where is, like, what is this? Is this a particular property address?
Yes. Yep.
Can I have that? copy
Yep.
of that?
Sure enough. Yep.
Time is we have a copy.
9617 Oriole Lane. Yep, and this is one of our current listings that's under contract. So this is the one with the starting bid price of 306 and is now under contract for 340, 339.99. So it hasn't closed just yet. Yep. And that's 9617 Oriole Lane, Belle Alton, Maryland, B-E-L-A-L, what is it? B-E-L-A-L-T-O-N. Yep. So you can go in there, go into Bright, and then you can actually look at the remarks and everything. Okay. Does anybody have any other questions with that?
Only other question I had is at the top, it will show the initial listing. When will that amount change?
When it's closed? That's a good question. So Aurelia wants to know when you reflect the final sales price, right? You own in Bright, when you create the listing, you're putting your list price for the starting bid price. When you go under contract, you don't disclose to other buyers or anybody except for your brokerage what your contract price is. Outside parties don't get to see that until you close. So once you close, that'll be one of the questions that's asked to close the listing out in Bright. What was the final sales price? And that's how that information is gathered. So when you're doing your comparative market analysis, agents will know how much it was listed for versus how much it actually sold for. Yep. So this property is currently under contract for $339,999. Yep. Yep. When it closes, yep, because this is active under contract. So they are on their way to settlement. Yep. Great question. Anybody else? Great questions tonight, guys. So let's go back to this listing on My House Porter, because this is the same listing there. Okay. And this buyer, they did the same thing as every other buyer. They sent an aggressive overpriced offer so that the seller will consider it and cancel the auction. And if the seller said, okay. So this one was just the same. Yep. So it didn't make it to auction. And we're seeing that consistently. They're not making it to auction, guys. But it's great because all the competition is giving really good sales prices to our sellers. Yep. Beautiful property there. Okay, so I was gonna say, Margaret mentioned that she had put a video in on your myhouseporter.com platform. When you're creating your listings, you are going to be able to put in your remarks, and be sure to put in remarks to make it attractive, your photos to make it attractive. You can put in a market analysis. Should you want to put in a market analysis, you can put in videos, you can put in links and all those things. So the platform offers you the ability to be able to add a lot to your listing, whatever you want to add to it. You see Miss Pat has her property disclosures there. Margaret has some things there, including a video as well. So just know that you can put your videos and all that good stuff on this platform also. So this one has ended, so we won't be able to see it now. Now, this one didn't make it to auction. If it doesn't make it to auction and it goes under contract before that, it's going to say 0 bids because you didn't make it to auction.
Oh, so it never been auction and launch. I mean, you did it before it did. active too.
Right, so this was hosted on the myhouseporter.com platform and hosted on BrightLMS as well. And you can see the people who are watching it, and you can see how many people viewed it. And one of those people submitted an aggressive overpriced offer. So you can always see how many people were watching your listing.
Okay.
Yep. Yes, yep. Yep. So Talitha's question was, does it turn into the traditional sale at that point? From the perspective of the buyer's premium, the buyer still pays that premium, right? If it goes through, I don't want to confuse you guys. I will address that when we have more time to kind of go through those details. But you're closing it out just like you would a standard sale. Everything that you're going through on Bright is going to be the exact same process in closing that listing out. You're going to be closing it out in BrokerMint as well. You're going through that exact same process to close the listing out. Your buyer, the buyer is going to send an offer directly to you in BrokerMint once their bid is accepted. If they submit it beforehand, it's going to come to you directly in BrokerMint in your offers section. Go back to the listing that we were in the offer section. You guys should be familiar with your offer section in BrokerMint. Maggie, what is the listing address again? Let me pull that one up since that's the one that we were looking at.
7904.
7904 Rosaryville. So as you guys know, in your transaction under assets, you're going to have a tab that says offers, right? So when your offers, here's your link. This is the link that you copy from here and you drop that into BrightLMS. So when you're creating that listing, remember we were looking right here at those instructions and you see that that's pasted in there so that the offers that are submitted on your board documents go directly into your BrokerMint account, okay? That's the missing piece. Yep, so everything is going directly through the platforms that you have set up. People aren't, they shouldn't be emailing you randomly and all that good stuff. While it's great to receive an offer and email, it's better if we have everything in one place so that you can eyeball it at a bird's eye view from your phone and you're always able to go back and reference all the offers that are received for the property. You copy it to the clipboard, you drop it into brightmls.com. Now everything that's received is going to come directly there for you. Okay. Yes, yes. So Aurelia said you're dealing with two links, the link from BrokerMint and the link from My House Porter. Yes, My House Porter is where they place their bids. BrokerMint is where the actual full board documented offer is going to come over.
Okay.
Yep. Great question. Does anybody else have any other questions about that? All right, so we'll go back to anybody have any questions? Let's go to your qualifications. See if anybody has any questions about that. All right, now, let's see, the auction, the turnaround time for the auction should be 72 hours, right? We are going to be, let's say 72 hours, do everything in 72 hours. If anything needs an extension, that's fine. But I want you guys to know that buyers are not gonna bid at the beginning of the auction. You will have an auction for 72 hours, but once they do start to bid, everybody's gonna wait until like that last hour. And then within that last hour, that's when you're gonna see the activity, because what they're hoping is that they can wait everybody else out and put their bid in at the very end so that they can be the high bid, all right? So I said that because extending the auction beyond 72 hours is not gonna get you more bids because they're still gonna wait until the end of the auction, okay? That's why you're coming soon. If you stretch it out, they're gonna wait until the end of that. That's why our coming soon status is so important, because the coming soon is going to notify them and let them know when the auction is actually going to begin. It's going to give them the time that they need to get their legwork, you know, if they need to get their pre-approvals, if they need to get themselves in gear, get their money together and all of that while you're doing your aggressive marketing for the property. That coming soon period, you are marketing that property like nobody's business, because if a buyer comes unrepresented, then guess what? As a listing agent, you are able to get your full commission, right? Now, that being said, we want to make sure that they're represented. So we may, you know, connect you with, you know, another agent in the brokerage, and you guys can discuss what you want that split to look like and all that good stuff. But the point that I'm making is that coming soon status is really important, so that you get all your marketing done, so that you get the most bang for your buck, and so that the buyers know that the property is about to come on the market and they can be ready for that auction date. Because one thing that'll drive them to respond is the fear of missing out. And if they know, hey, this is the deadline, this is the date, then they'll respond by that date, okay? Does anybody have any questions about that? All right, if not, we're going to stop there on My House Porter tonight. And as promised, I wanted to designate some time to answer any questions that you guys have. If you need anything that is not on this topic, if anybody, you know, you need to know how to do anything, where to locate items or where to find something, I'm going to let you guys take the floor. Does anybody have any questions, any comments? Any pressing needs, maybe regarding a transaction or something like that? Nobody online? Anybody in here? Okay, yes, we'll talk about the market analysis. The Baltimore property, yep. Sure enough. You guys are quiet this evening, no questions?
I have one question.
Come on, bring your questions.
Okay, so when
Marcus, your audio is still a little bit low. Forgive me.
let me try to get closer to the computer, I guess. So when you're looking for the disclosures for different counties like Baltimore, do we need to make a login for mdrealtor.org, or do we have a?
That was a great question. Yes. So on mdrealtor.org, your login information is going to be your NERDS ID and whatever password you've assigned. So yes, when you go to mdrealtor.org for the first time, you are going to have to log in, and they may have already given you a password. Chances are you created it when you first joined the board and you got that information, but you will need to put in your information specific to the site. If you can't remember your password, you simply choose forgot password and you go through the process of renewing. mdrealtor.org. That was a great question. Yes, Rhonda? Mhm.
If the user ID is actually your last name.
Rhonda's giving you the formula. The user ID is going to be your last name and the last 4 digits of your NERDS ID. And then your password will be your NERDS ID.
Okay, the username is your last.
I'll say it again. Rhonda said, if you haven't gone in there to update it, then your username on mdrealtor.org is going to be your last name plus the last 4 digits of your NERDS ID. And your password will be your complete NERDS ID, so that you can access all of your forms and everything, your jurisdictional addenda. Great question. Any other questions?
Appreciate it.
You got it. I welcome all the questions, because if you have a question, that means one of your other colleagues may have that same question. So always don't, guys, you know how we have an open interactive platform. Don't ever feel shy to ask any question. Even if you've asked it 2, 3, 5 times, it is well. Let's just make sure you get it. I would rather you have what you need than not ask a question. All right. Anybody else? All right, then I'm going to end the recording for the night, and we can hang on until 8:30 in case you guys have any more questions. All right.